everyone, my name's Oliver East and today I'm here to review this magnet placement game called Kluster. Now, it's a very simple game to play. I'll briefly teach you how you play the game. It's very quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts and feelings on the game. To set up the game, it's literally as simple as splitting evenly the 24 magnetic stones between all the players. So at 2 players, it's 12 each. At 3, then it's 8 each, and you literally just pass these out to the different players, not inside the circle, but outside the circle. Randomly decide the starting player, and they will take any one of their magnetic stones and put it anywhere within the roped area. Going clockwise, the next player then takes one of theirs and adds it to the middle, trying not to get too close, such as that. On your turn, you're not allowed to touch the previously placed stones with your hand, but if you're extremely careful, you can sometimes nudge them a little bit with another magnet. Again, not touching them, just using the forces to push it slightly. You're also entirely allowed to try and move the rope a bit with your magnet. The game continues clockwise around the table, with each player placing one of their magnetic stones in. If nothing happens, then you carry on to the next player. However, if someone places something a bit too close and anything connects, or simply while they are trying to sort of place it to join together, they take all the connected ones, add that to their selection that they're trying to place, and their turn is over. You do not get to place the stone that you are trying to place. The game simply then carries on, again clockwise around the table, and until one person places their final stone into the middle, and when they have none left, they have won the game. You can play on and allow for a second place, but it's pretty much just the first person to do so wins. And well, that is all the rules you need to know to play Kluster for 2 to 4 players. You can also play this game solo, and that requires you to place all of the 24 stones into the circled area without more than 2 clusters occurring. You can also try and keep it as a high score and just see how many you can get down and placed before the clustering occurs. So now you know how easy the game of Kluster is to play, let's start off with the production. There's not too much going on in this very small box, but you have, first of all, a very easy, obvious boundary put in by that string. And a very important part of the string is you can change the size of that circle. Now, we found by tying it at the very end, the game did feel way too easy. We loosened that knot a little bit, pulled some of the string out, and then the sort of boundary area was much smaller and the games became much more, oh, I think that's going to work, or it causes a cluster, and just shrinking that size, that allows you to make it easier for younger players that maybe would get frustrated, or when people get good at the game, you can shrink that size of the sort of string, and then it's a very sort of different game as you're really carefully placing the magnets in. So the string is a great includement. It's a great inclusion even, because it allows you to sort of make the game more challenging when you want it to. The magnets work really well. They are of a good strength that it means you're putting them close to each other, they are going to either move or they're going to sort of get instantly attracted and attached. So there's not much of that times where it's like, I've had my go, it's your turn, then stuff connects and it's like, well, it's on your turn now. There's very little of that. Mostly as soon as you put a magnet down, if something's going to connect to it, it does straight away. So the magnets are really good. There's also, it's quite interesting, they are slightly different. Not every magnet is the same shape. There's ones that are slightly thinner than others in terms of not sort of how high they are off the table, but in terms of sort of depth or height or width, whichever way you look at it, they're just slightly different, which means sometimes it feels like, oh, this is a smaller one. I could squeeze it into a smaller gap as you're sort of placing your magnet stones down. So yeah, that's really cool. And keeping on the production side of things, it comes in a box, but it comes with a drawstring bag, which means it's incredibly portable. So it's production, but portability. This box is pretty small as it is. It's maybe a double deck of cards, maybe a touch bigger than that. But the fact is, you can take this game out in a very small drawstring bag. Now, you might not want it in your pocket next to your phone or maybe your credit cards with the amount of magnets in the box. I wouldn't want to risk that, but easily you could throw that into a backpack and, you've got a very good game that works on a relatively small table space. You can hold the magnets, and as long as you've got a bit of table somewhere that is, well, that sort of size, in a rough circle, but you're not always playing on a circle, then you can play Kluster. So that's pretty good going from the sort of three elements that make up, or the two elements that make up the game. They've got very good reasons and make the game work. And then the portability that bag or even the box size gives, well, that's some more positives. Now, there is some frustration when you're playing. If one player is maybe not as good, shall we say, as the other people around the table, they will potentially be constantly freeing the board or a bit of the sort of space up, not the board, the stringed area. They might be constantly freeing up a little bit of the area by causing a cluster on their turn over and over again. And that can mean that the person sitting next to them, sort of in the clockwise bit, the person that goes after them, they can always have an easy stone placement, and that can mean that that person wins a lot. It's going to depend on your player count. If you're at 4, that really does have an impact because you're getting maybe 3 other stones put down, then they've got nowhere good. 3 more good stone placements, they don't have anywhere good. 2-player, you don't really have that issue because if your opponent's making the mistakes, you're going to be winning. And that's the point of Kluster, to sort of back someone into a corner where they can't really put their magnet in a good place, and it will cause clusters. There is a solo mode included. Now, I'm not one for solo games, certainly not anything that requires big amounts of setup. Kluster requires me to open the box, put the string out, and the setup's done. I'm then just placing magnets. Now, it's a fun little way if you're just trying to kill 5 minutes, just placing the magnets out and trying to place as many as you can without sort of causing 2 clusters. It's a bit of fun. I would say it's when you sort of tighten the string, make that circle smaller and see how many you can get in that before things go wrong. That's when it starts to become interesting. It's not the best solo mode, but it is something that you can do. Like I say, take that with a pinch of salt. I'm not a solo mode board gamer. I'll go and watch something on the TV or something normally. But super simple, and that is one of the things that solo modes does attract me, is that there isn't any setup, there isn't really much teardown, so I can just put it on the table and play straight away for filling 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I can pack away. And to be fair, that's what Kluster does really well. It's not going to be your main game at a game night, it's going to be filling the gaps. The play time on the box is 10 minutes, and to be honest, most of the time you can get 2 games in that 10 minutes. So you're waiting for that 4th person, maybe someone's just gone to grab drinks at a restaurant or something like that, and you're at a board game cafe. Get this off the shelf and you can wait for them to come back while having some fun. And you're going to keep coming back to the game from time to time, but after 2, 3, maybe 4 rounds of it, you're like, okay, we've played some, we've used up 20 minutes of time, let's go on to another game. It's a great sort of filler game that you keep coming back to. Maybe you're magnetically drawn back to it. That's awful, but we'll keep that in. It's that sort of game. It's fun. It's got that magnetic sort of twang when all the stones hit. That's a bit of excitement, a bit of fun, sometimes a bit of shock for everyone around the table. It's just that bit different. It certainly stands out, and I think that's another promising thing for the game, that it will maybe just make people think, oh, I've never thought of a board game like that. Putting that all together, and the fact I have had a lot of fun with Kluster, and I will continue to, my rating might seem a little harsh. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now, I could certainly easily recommend you go and play this if it's at a board game cafe or if someone you know has it. But not everyone's going to need this sort of game in their collection. Strong filler, strong fill of 10, 20 minutes, playing a few games, you'll get it off the shelf. It's very different. You can easily sort of take it around because it's super portable. But once you've played a 2-3 games of it, it's not doing anything different. You'll put it back on the shelf for another time. That is Kluster though. Let me know if you've played it. What did you think of it in the comment section below? And until next time, check out other sort of stuff on the Dice Tower.